All right, good afternoon. Professor Walsh meant to be here, but he had to cancel last minute for medical reasons, so he has appointed me to come and say a few words in his place about the speakers today. He says, "I'm sorry I cannot make it today to hear these fine writers present their work. This is the highlight of the year, Convocation. These students are artists and scholars in the making, and it is always a great pleasure to watch them stand before the Reinhardt family to read a sample of their work. I have read and edited their creative writing, and I've watched it mature, and with hard work, they have moved to the next level of publication. I look forward to seeing their success unfold." And first up, we have Jake Baraka, who also says he has the drive it takes to be a novelist. He works hard at his craft. Most importantly, he listens and takes advice, not only regarding the edits and suggestions for his novel, but for the writer's life, which is demanding and brutal at times. It's 99% rejection, but if you have the wherewithal to push on, it takes only one publisher to see the value in your writing. Jake has that kind of determination. He has a strong creative mind and is already working on his second novel. So please welcome Jake, who will be reading from Threefold Fates.
Hello, I'm Jake. Can you all hear me well?
Yes.
Hope so. Yeah, I guess we'll get started. I recently renamed this actually from Threefold Fates to Book of Iridian, the Doomed Prince, so there's that. I'm a fantasy writer, so if you're not familiar with fantasy, this may be a little different, but don't worry too much about that. So without further ado, we will begin. Book of Iridian, the Doomed Prince, Prologue. Both blessed and cursed, he could foresee the tragedy, but was unable to prevent it. Excerpt from End of the Third Era, Constantine Nicaea, 1133 CA. The prince in silver is dead. On the marble floor of a cathedral, kaleidoscopic light shines through a stained glass window, casting myriad hues onto the fallen champion. The Jade King, bearer of the blade that felled him, drops to his knees. Another, cloaked in dark violet, rushes towards them, shouting, agonized. The scene fades to darkness, revealing a solitary, fourth figure. After a moment, it turns, blood-red eyes glaring into the darkness. 30th of Emerald Moon, 995 CA. It was looking right at me, Sothir thought as his eyes flew open. He was flat on his back and drenched in sweat at the top of a spire far in the mountains. He took in several deep breaths, air smelling of incense. He struggled to sit up, gritting his teeth against a throbbing headache. Orange light from the setting sun peeked into the room through the crown glass windows before him. An ancient tapestry hung across it, a dedication to the Farseer, god of fate. The amethyst-robed visage of Sothir's divine patron loomed over him like a disappointed parent. Farseer, give me the wisdom to comprehend that which you have shown me. His voice shook as he spoke, for his request was dishonest. He understood what he saw, but he couldn't accept it. The divine stared up towards a starry night sky as if avoiding Sothir's gaze. He heard footsteps approaching as he leaned against the wall. Sothir turned his head to see a familiar face ascending the steps into his quarters, one with a persistently serene smile and pearl-smooth features. She was dear to him. He was her confidant, and she was his master, the archpastoress of the Church of Iridian. "What troubles you?" she asked him. Her hair was down, not in the ornate headdress she usually wore. She was wearing a simple white gown. Her hair and eyes were jade green, proof of the mother's blessing. "The vision came again," he said. "I beg you to heed my words. If what I see has any semblance of truth, all will be..." "Temper yourself. You are a conduit of divine will. Many things may cloud your interpretation of what you have seen. Why would the divine see fit to plunge our land into the chaos you prophesize?" "I don't know," he said, wiping the sweat from his brow. "I worry, Misara. It is my duty. Your faith that all will be well is inspiring." He couldn't meet her gaze. She smiled. "The Church has overseen nearly 1,000 years of peace as the ambassadors of those who created us, and it will see 1,000 more beyond that." Her voice was soft, yet firm. We are mortal and prone to faults. Perhaps what you see represents the coming mock battle. Perhaps you are merely being tested. No divine aspect is without challenges, for we must prove our worthiness to bear them. He nodded, but said nothing as she continued. This is the first time in centuries each of the realm's heirs will be attending the academy at once. Never mind that they will see the dawn of the 1000th year of our age at the end of their tutelage. She gazed out the window, her serenity still vexing to Sophia. He sighed, deep in thought. I should be excited. For centuries, those granted power by the divines, be it through birth or chance, have come here to learn how to wield their powers to defend Meldon. It should be a hopeful time, yet I foresee tragedy. Is Masara's faith misplaced? Have we grown complacent? She laid a hand on his shoulder. Come, take a walk with me to clear your mind. He nodded and followed her down the spiral stairs. After some time, she continued, saying, It is fortuitous that we both share an aspect of one of the heirs, is it not? The Tsarevich should best consider himself fortunate should he receive your instruction on the remedial arts of the mother. Do not discount yourself, she said, smiling. As you have proven, even masters of the far seer's aspect can be distressed by its prophecies. The Commonwealth's princess would be lucky to have your guidance. Sothir's brow furrowed. It is unfortunate there is no one here to teach the Crown Prince to wield the animancy of the Soul Father. Indeed, she said, he is one of only two in Meldon to possess the Soul Father's aspect, and considering the second is his father, well, perhaps it is best the young prince does not learn from him. Alas, the scions of the divine lost to us are few, and the only other suitable candidate will be unavailable until next year. By this time, the two had reached the bottom of the tower's spiraling stairs. Mazara opened the door leading to the outside. The monastery's grounds were pristine. Cobbled paths connected its various structures, and emerald green trees grew to add natural shade. One of the aides, an aquamancer, was cleaning the marble walls. Even with a lesser aspect of the tide weaver, the aide was able to channel water from the river far below and sweep it in great arcs across the walls, scrubbing off dirt, dust, and detritus. The base of the bishop's tower, where they stood, was connected to the chapel of Meldon's Savior on their right. Its steeple ascended far into the sky, beyond all surrounding structures. Beyond the steeple was a statue of pure, vanishingly rare jade crystal, one of the largest and most treasured depictions of the Mother, she who created humanity. Both of her arms were raised into the sky, and at the angle from which Sophia was viewing, it appeared she cradled the sun within her arms. A path that started at the cathedral's entrance led to a bridge that connected it to the rest of the monastery. The two of them crossed it, the flowing river rippling beneath them. Never were the grounds busier than the day before the beginning of a new class. The staff was preparing the students' dormitories, which were situated in the monastery's northwest corner. Sothir's mind wandered as he gazed at the Tower of the Aspects situated right next to the students' living quarters. In 4 years, the students would celebrate their graduation here, but they would not see its interior a moment before them. I've been reading the upcoming students' dossier. There are many commoners among their ranks. He gestured to the dormitories. The rooms within them were arranged by size. The largest rooms were in the center of each house's section, given to the nobles among the coming class. The smaller ones were on either side, assigned to commoner students. They were either the first in a new line or one of the lucky few blessed with an aspect in childhood. Sothir shook his head. You know I have never approved of this partiality to the nobility. I fear with such an even mix of noble and commoner there may be tension. It is a necessity, she said. You are well aware of the role propriety plays between the great houses of this land. Such is the way of things. Only those from bloodlines with a history of divine blessing are prepared to wield power. She put a hand on his shoulder. Just like those who are newly blessed must prove themselves to earn that power, so did our ancestors once. It has been so since the days before the first era's end. The two stood in silence for one long moment before Sophia finally broke away. I had best attend to the knight's reports. I saw Mentor Yaros requested my presence earlier, so I must be going. I also have matters to attend to, she said, gesturing towards the monastery's gates. If you wish to discuss your visions further, our last opportunity to do so before the students arrive shall be tonight. He nodded. I would appreciate that. Ventir above, Meldon below. He turned to walk away. So it was, so it shall be, they both said. So that's the end of the prologue, and now we've got a little bit of chapter 1 that we'll read here. So, chapter 1, Through the Gates. The emperor's reign was characterized by his corruption and negligence, though it is particularly notable for its violent end. Excerpt from End of the Third Era. First of Sapphire Moon, 995 CA. And that is why you can never trust an enemy, an old man in lavish robes said. His son sat before him, a defeated frown sullying his otherwise refined poise. He didn't offer a response to the end of his father's rant. The older man scowled, and there was silence for a moment before he started again. You know, I remember coming to the monastery when I was a young lad. How Steel Falcon was lucky to have me, as shall you be, Sephiroth. Show the rabble and the other classes why Bastaria is the greatest of the realms. The carriage containing the two jolted and came to an abrupt halt, and the old man swore. Your Majesty, we're stuck in a rut, called the coachman from outside. Emperor Fraldaric Hansian glanced over to the young man. Sephiroth was 18, though his hair was the color of polished silver. His crimson robe contrasted the dark mud of the unpaved road. Bastard, the Emperor began. Blind as he is stupid. I should have him quartered alongside whoever saw him fit to be our driver. Sephiroth looked out the window and saw the coachman struggling to dislodge the wheel. I'm going to try and help him. Go on, boy. Thank the Soul Father he's given you the strength to do what that wretch can't. Sephiroth said nothing as he stepped out of the carriage and onto the mud. He paused for a moment as he took in the scenery with its signs of the recent rain. Light reflected off the dew in the grass, and there was a steady dripping from the leaves of surrounding trees. Most striking of all was the clean mountain air, cool and refreshing. Are you slow, boy? Hurry up, his father shouted from behind him. Sephiroth shook his head and approached the coachman. Allow me to help, sir. The coachman's tired eyes widened, and he was silent for a few seconds before regaining his composure. Certainly, Your Highness. Assistance would be appreciated. Sephiroth nodded before taking the coachman's place at the wheel. Sephiroth didn't judge the man for his inability. By the gray streaks in his hair and the crow's feet by his eyes, the prince knew him to be around 50. Sephiroth squatted by the wheel and began to lift. Despite the weight of the carriage, especially with the Emperor inside, Sephiroth had little trouble in hoisting the wheel from the mud. I see the Soul Father's might in you, Your Highness. Many thanks, said the coachman. Sephiroth, at first saying nothing, smiled and slipped the coachman a gold piece before re-entering the carriage. The rest of the trip was carried on in silence. Dirt roads were new to Sephiroth, nothing like the cobbled streets of his home. He could see the disdain on his father's face as the old man stared at the mud caked on the prince's boots. As his father prattled on, Sephiroth's mind drifted to his destination. The monastery has existed since the days of Iridian himself, and the priests say that the mother blesses the land it rests upon. The line between myth and fact seems to blur in its wake. Sephiroth looked down to his lap and adjusted the dagger sheathed on his belt. And yet, for this place of worship, the capital of the faith, I'm taken here to learn not only of the heavens, but of battle and magic. Sephiroth stewed in his thoughts for the next hours, attempting to keep himself occupied while his father carried on. The monastery nestled in the Lakeview Valley was akin to a ruby in a golden crown. A new stage in his life began today, and he was going to accept it with open arms. Despite previously imagining Silentane would look like a large church complex, it would be better described as a fortress. Massive walls surrounded the entire compound. Banners depicting the icons of the divines hung from each of the towers. Even from this distance, still several minutes by carriage, Sephiroth could see the regiment of soldiers marching the battlements and the flock of pilgrims walking the grounds of the village situated around them. Rising above the walls of the monastery was the great dome of the cathedral therein, a statue atop it depicting the mother. Her arms were spread, opened up towards the heavens, inviting all of her children onto the grounds. And that is all.
Next up, we have Shamir Wingfield, who is a business major, and Walsh says, I'm pretty certain this is his first fiction writing course. However, that does not matter in the least. Why? Because Shamir is one of the most natural storytelling voices I've ever heard from any student. He may not know how strong his talents are, but this is one of the wonderful things about college, finding who you are and exploring your untapped skills. I'm certain of this. If Shamir continues to develop his fiction writing skills, he will publish his novel, The Block is Hot. It's that good. Please welcome Shamir.
Hey, how y'all doing? My name is Shamir. I ain't gonna lie, I am kind of nervous. This is my first time writing a novel, but I hope y'all like it. The block is hot. It was a normal day in the hood on the east side of Albany, Georgia, with the boys gambling on the corner, police searching gang members and junkies on the corner, looking for their next fix. In the middle of the hood lived a single household family, which consisted of a single mother and a son. The mother's name was Gloria, and the son's name was Contreras. They lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with 1 bathroom. Contreras' father was not in the picture, as he was locked up in Blaylock prison since Contreras was a baby. Everyone knew him as Big Hot, one of the biggest drug dealers in Albany. Gloria worked at Phoebe Hospital all day, leaving Contreras at home to figure things out on his own. One day, Gloria left from work like she usually does and told Contreras, "I left you the EBT card on top of the fridge to get something to eat." Contreras replies, "Thank you, Ma, and have a good day at work." He heads to the kitchen to pour himself a bowl of Frosted Flakes. From the window, he saw his mother pulling out of the driveway in a gray Chevrolet Chevelle Concours. Contreras then proceeds to get on his bike to ride around the whole east side. Contreras rode around for a couple hours. He was hungry and headed to the deli, which was a couple blocks from his house. The person that owned the deli was Ace. Ace had been running the deli before Contreras was born. He used to be close friends with Big Hot back when he was free. Ace was in his 50s at the time and always wore an Atlanta Hawks hat. The deli was a restaurant where it doesn't matter what side of the hood you came from, you can always stop by to grab a hot meal. So Contreras parked his bike, walked into the restaurant. As soon as he walked into the restaurant, Ace yelled out his name. Contreras replies with, "What's up, Ace?" Ace asks Contreras, does he want his usual, which is a 20 lemon pepper wings and large fries and a supersized Coke. While Contreras was talking to Ace, he noticed 2 girls behind him he went to Westover High School with. Their names were Ashanti and Asia. They both were pretty popular at his school. Ashanti had long Brazilian hair, was dark skinned, and was wearing her schoolgirl's outfit. Asia had a pixie cut, big lips, light skin, and a bodysuit. She was the one girl that Contreras had a crush on. He wanted to impress the 2 girls, so he asked, "Can I pay for y'all food?" Ashanti says to Contreras, "Ooh, I love men with money." Asia says, "I'm not turning down free food." Contreras tells him to go outside while he pays for their food. Both girls says, "No, it's hot as hell outside and our makeup is gonna melt off." Ace asks Contreras, "Will you be paying with your government card or cash?" As soon as Contreras tells Ace he would be paying with his government card, both girls laugh at him. Ashanti says, "Damn, you that broke that you use a government card?" Ace replies, I guess we'll pay for your food and yours since you don't have funds." After the girls paid for Contreras' food, he felt so embarrassed in front of his crush that he just ran out of the store. As soon as he runs out of the store, he bumps into a large black figure. The large black figure's name was Huncho. Huncho was one of the biggest drug dealers on the east side of Albany, Georgia. He had a Louis Vuitton sweatsuit, had on 2 of the biggest Cuban chains, and wore a Kango hat. And drove a gold Mercedes 560. Also, Huncho was in his late 20s. After Contreras bumped into Huncho, Huncho said, "Whoa, slow down, Jit. Watch where you going." Huncho tells him, I watched as you were embarrassed by them girls. But that's okay, it happens to everybody. Until you come back and flex on the people that talk down on you." Huncho then proceeds to pull out a stack of cash and gives Contreras a couple $100. Contreras replies, "How you get all that money?" Huncho tells him, "I became my own boss and got tired of waiting for other people." He then asks Contreras, "Jit, what are you doing around this time tomorrow?" Contreras says nothing. Huncho tells him, "I'm taking you out tomorrow and go buy some new clothes." He then walks to his new gold Mercedes-Benz 560 and pulls out smoothly from the deli. As he pulls out from the deli, Contrell just stares at Huncho like he had seen a ghost. Contrell then hops on his bike and rushes to Albany Mall. He goes straight to Foot Locker to shop. Contrell buys a black Adidas tracksuit with some Adidas shoes to match. He then hops on his bike and rushes to get home before the street light comes on. On his way home, he has to pass by the block that was owned by the Rolling 60s. They were one of the gangs in Albany that consisted of other high schoolers that Contrell went to school with. Contrell rides by the block without making any contact with the 60s so they won't jump him. On his way to going past their block, one of the members noticed Contrell. One of the members' names was Weezy. He was 6'2" and was light-skinned. Weezy sees the bag that Contrell has from the mall and wants it. He told the rest of the members to chase after Contrell. Contrell gets blindsided by the 60s and immediately gets jumped. They beat the shit out of Contrell and robbed him for his new gear. Weezy then pulls out a Glock 19 and points it at Contrell's head. It says, "Any last words?" Weezy and the rest of the 60s heard police sirens, ran away, leaving Contrell all beat up. Contrell struggles to get up from the beating and is speechless. He rushes to get home before the street light comes on. As he storms into the house, he rushes to his room and just lays in the dark. A loud voice yells out, "Contrell!" It was just Gloria coming home from her shift at Phoebe. She goes to Contrell's room to check up on him. Gloria asks Contrell, "How was your day?" His response was, "It was fine." Gloria figures out it was something wrong with Contrell. She then proceeds to cut on the light and notices Contrell has a black eye. Gloria gets worried and asks Contrell, "What happened to you?" He lies and says, I just fell off my bike on the way home." Gloria then goes and gives Contrell some ice for his eye. She then tells Contrell, "Be careful next time and get some rest for school tomorrow," and kisses him on his forehead while he's lying in bed. Then she leaves the room. Instead of going to sleep, Contrell stays up thinking about how he's going to get revenge tomorrow on Weezy. And that's it.
Thank you, Shamir. Okay. Last but not least is Wesley Seaver, who is one of the most diverse creative writing students at Reinhardt. He's presenting a paper, Insane Yet Smart, an analysis of Christopher Smart's Rejoice in the Land. The audience should know that he's writing an incredibly creative novel dealing with time travel that merges present day with the Civil War. It's called In the Blink of an Eye. He also has a strong TV script, The Sign Company, which is a hilarious comedy about the men who work for the local county sign crew. Wesley has a very sharp sense of humor, a dry wit that is subtle but exacting. He is an excellent editor, as demonstrated by his work on Reinhardt's undergraduate literary magazine, Sanctuary, as well as the international literary journal, James Student Review. So, please welcome Wesley.
I was getting gifts today. Before I get started today, I would like to first make sure that most of, if not all of you, grabbed one of these lyric sheets on your way in here. We'll be needing it later. I would also like to say a quick thank you to the Reinhardt Chorale, and specifically Dr. Ogston, for asking me to do this and for his support and the choir's dedication to being here today. I would also like to thank all the Reinhardt faculty who were able to make it out to watch this. Didn't print it out unlike my peers, so bear with me. All right. I trust he is now at peace, for it was not his portion here. These were the words a loving nephew gave following the loss of his uncle. An uncle who had experienced more than his fair share of talents, brilliance, losses, vices, and betrayals. A father who died at the young age of 49 whilst imprisoned for debt. and a son who dedicated his life to something greater than himself. The man in question, whose work we focus on today, is one Christopher Smart, a man who truly lived up to the promise of his last name. He was an artist who made easy work of success, a deeply flawed human who struggled to overcome addiction, and a patient suffering from internal demons as well as external ones. But all of these descriptors hide who Smart truly saw himself to be, a hope-filled servant of God, through and through. Smart's poetry, though incomprehensible at times, was created with a God-obsessed mind, leading to the creation of a poem that was never meant to be published, let alone put to song by one of the most influential composers of the 20th century. Jubilate Año, or as it will be referred to today, Rejoice in the Lamb, is Christopher Smart's 1,200-line asylum masterpiece, brilliantly put to music almost 200 years after its creation by Benjamin Britten. Christopher Smart's upbringing and lineage reads like a plot line pulled from a Dickens novel. Smart was born on April 11th, 1722, in a town called Shipbourne in the county of Kent. Smart was born into a line of, to put it kindly, religious enthusiasts, with his father Peter being a former member of a German cult. Smart was the only male child in his family of 6 and would soon become the only male entirely after his father's passing. 11-year-old Smart was then sent to live with a former employer of his father in Durham, a lord who began raising and instilling upon young Smart to succeed in life. Taking this motivation and running with it, Smart excelled in grade school, graduating at the young age of 17 and already proficient in grammar and poetry writing. Smart's successes would follow him to college. He attended Pembroke College in Cambridge and further proved himself there. He won prestigious scholarships, wrote poems that handed him school-wide acclaim, and earned the title of classical scholar. Things were working out so well for Smart in college that after graduating, he was offered a job and a fellowship position at the school, which provided an annual stipend so long as he did not get married. With everything seemingly going in the right direction for Smart, all it seemed like he had to do was coast, write a few poems here and there, and live the rest of his life with luxury. However, Smart was still only in his 20s, and like many 20-year-olds, Smart contradicted his last name in the choices he made. Smart took up the age-old, life-destroying habits of spending without saving and alcoholism. Smart had expensive taste and shallow pockets, leading him to debt and a new reputation, a rabble-rouser. Smart decided that his time at Cambridge had come to an end, that he should venture out into the world, also known as London, on his own and make a career as an independent poet. So that is exactly what he did. Smart was also, at this time, introduced to Anna Marie Carney, his future wife and, most importantly, the stepdaughter of John Newbery, an English book publisher. Smart took off, engaging in more ill-advisable habits, writing and producing poetry, and pissing people off for all manner of reasons. Smart married Anna Maria in 1752, thus ending his stipend at Pembroke College and cutting off a vital source of income. John Newbery came to Smart's rescue, offering to become his publisher and to house Smart and his new family. Though it must have seemed a blessing at first, by putting himself in contact with Newbery, Smart had helped seal his fate. Smart, as a result of being overbooked and other lying health issues, suffered a seizure which forever altered his mind. Smart, who was always a Christian and wrote many Christian poems, became induced with religious mania. Repeatedly, people found Smart praying everywhere and at any time, oftentimes in the street. This crazed behavior grew to a concerning extent, something Newbery and his stepdaughter were not too keen on being around. Newbery and Smart were on the outs. Smart's debts grew larger and larger, and Newbery could no longer saw Smart as a revenue source. Newbery helped in getting Smart committed to St. Luke's Mental Hospital, and there Smart would reside for the next 7 years. His publisher and father-in-law had betrayed him. His wife and children left him, and he was badly in debt. Only 3 things kept Smart going: his faith, a cat named Jeffrey, and his poetry. It was during this confinement that Smart wrote the entirety of Jubilate Anno, as well as other praised religious poems. Smart's story came to an end shortly after his release. Living on his own and mentally unstable and physically unwell, Smart fell deeper into debt and was no longer able to be bailed out by friends. Smart found himself arrested and died in prison from liver disease in 1771. It was not until 1938 that the works Smart completed in St. Luke's were uncovered. Jubilate Anno was among these. It was analyzed, shortened, and no more than a year later presented to Benjamin Britten, a well-known composer and traditional text savant. Britten put the words to music, and Jubilate Anno became popularized as Rejoice in the Lamb. The text of Jubilate Anno is essentially divided into three parts: the Let section, the For section, and the Alleluia section. All of these sections, except the Alleluia section, should be in your handout. The Let section consists of names and animals of biblical figures, mostly from the Old Testament, and animals Smart felt correlated with these individuals. For context, the handouts that you have received have Bible chapters and verses which reference the names. Some of these names are easily recognizable. Most of them are not. This song version of the text, which omits a lot of the people Smart included. Each of the biblical people and their animals are giving their praises to God in this section, which the choir and I will now sing. Reason I brought water up here. This section shows both Smart's dedication to his work, going through the Bible, and selecting as many names as he could to give their praises to God. It also must have taken a great deal of thought because there's plentiful information for some of the individuals and what animals would go with them. Daniel and the lion, obviously. But for people like Jacob, there's next to nothing in the Bible about who he is. Maybe this section is indicative of how much religious mania Smart was going through. Or maybe it shows his unwavering faith and tenacity towards praising God. The next section has been dubbed the For Lament section. In this section, Smart directly compares himself to Jesus Christ and the suffering they both endured at the hands of those tasked with keeping peace. Smart's friends and family cast him aside and betrayed him because of his mental instability, because he believed so much in something that went against the norm, similar to those who claimed Jesus was insane and the disciples' betrayal. Smart also strongly implies that he has been beaten by the guards and staff at St. Luke's, similar to Jesus' treatment by the Roman guards before his crucifixion. But Smart, like Jesus in the crucifixion story, does not lose his faith in God. Despite the beatings and the direness of the situation, Smart firmly believes that God shall deliver him out of all, just like he did with Jesus. Smart had to maintain his faith and hope in something beyond his confinement, something beyond his helplessness. Smart had to believe he would not die without heaven to follow.